Right, so we are now actually going into the proper training segment. We've got postcodes. Okay, so as a virtual assistant working for a property investor, you are going to need to be working with postcodes a lot of the time. For the people who just joined us, please can you mute your mics? Thank you very much. Right. So postcodes is what we call in the Philippines zip codes, maybe. I think that's what we call it. Here in the UK, they're called postcodes. Okay. Just 1 second. We've got people here who are not muting their mics. Guys, I can't find you. If you're not muting your mics, you are making it difficult for other people to concentrate, and you're making it difficult for me to concentrate on my slides as well. Thank you. Okay. Right, so let's go back. Postcodes. As a VA working for a property investor, you will be dealing with postcodes a lot. So it's really good to understand exactly what they can be used for, so there's no confusion. In the UK, postcodes enable somebody to find the location of a property. Okay, so if you type in a postcode on Google, Google Maps will show you exactly where that postcode is located in the UK. The postcode has two parts. The in code and the out code doesn't matter. These are technical jargons. Even landlords will not know what an in code or an out code is. But just for for our learning purposes today, it's good to understand what comprises postcodes in the UK. Okay, so you've got postcodes are comprised of two parts. You've got the out code here and the in code. Okay, so the out code tells you the general location of that postcode. So if your landlord is investing in, for example, a small borough in a big city, he might say, okay, please can you invest in, let's use this as an example, SW1A. Okay, he may not need to give you the in code because the in code is the focus or the more specific locator that tells you exactly what street that postcode is located in, and sometimes even what house number. Okay, it may one house number may not have its own postcode, but a complete postcode might refer to, let's say, 20 house numbers or 50 house numbers, depending on how how big the area is, right? So these are some examples of what postcodes might look like. SW1A space 2AA, WF9 space 4AF, S6 space 5BB, B32 space 1EN. You don't need to understand what they mean. S, for example, refers to Sheffield, B refers to Birmingham, WF is Wakefield, SW is not a county or a city that starts with SW. It's actually in London. Now, London has its own mini postcodes within like a big postcode. SW refers to a southwest area of central London. Okay. Sometimes you might be asked to find postcodes because the landlord only has the first line of address. To find a postcode, this is where you need to go to. So please take a screenshot of this. Everyone will receive a copy of these slides, so that's good. But if you want to make a copy of it now, you can take a screen grab. You can find postcodes from incomplete addresses, from incomplete postcodes using the postcode finder. So on day 3, I will be teaching you how to generate leads for property investors by finding property deals off market. And sometimes when you find these properties, they will have an incomplete postcode, or they'll only have the first line of address, or they might have just the street name and the full postcode, but no house number. So you might need to do other investigation strategies in order to find the full address. But to find just the postcode, this is the best website to go to. Okay, it's the post office's website, postcode finder. Okay. Why should you know about postcodes? Okay, because as a VA, you might be asked to do certain tasks for landlords wherein you will be using postcodes a lot, because landlords and property investors deal with properties, and properties have postcodes. Okay, so when to use postcodes? You need postcodes in order to search on property portals. I will show you, I think it's tomorrow, we will be using Rightmove and other property portals. You cannot use these websites if you haven't got an area to work with. Sometimes you will be given specific postcodes to search. Sometimes it's a city, sometimes it's the first half of the postcode, okay? So you need postcodes when you're asked by the landlord to search for properties on property portals. Okay. You also need postcodes to carry out due diligence. For example, finding out house price comparables, rent rates, going on Airbnb in order to find properties or to find competition, or to find out what the nightly rates are or occupancy rates. That's what postcodes are for. They're very, very useful. They can also be used for comparing investment areas, and they will certainly be used for data scraping. On day 3, as I mentioned earlier, I will teach you how to do lead generation and scraping data of websites. And sometimes these data that you will scrape, they are incomplete. So I don't want you to go back to your landlord or client having incomplete addresses without going through as many investigative strategies as possible to find the complete address. Okay. Again, core value, resourcefulness. Okay. So as an exercise right now, let's try this. Oh, sorry. There's a first line here that says name the countries that comprise the UK. It's because during the first training, I actually went through teaching the students what countries comprise the UK. We'll not go through that today. It's not really important. If you've got the postcode, that's pretty much all you need to know. Okay, so guys, let's go back here for those who just joined. To find the postcode, this is the website that you need to go to. I think I'm going to put it in the chat box. Wait lang. I don't know how to find the chat box. I think I need to stop sharing. Okay, I'll type it in, guys. postoffice.co.uk/postcode finder. Okay, so use that website to look for this address, 74 York Road, Great Yarmouth. I'd like to see your results. Please can you type it in the chat box once you found the postcode. I've got one answer here. Anyone else, guys? Okay. Was that easy to do? That was quite easy to do, right? Okay. What street? Okay, second question. What street is the postcode? Oh, where? Oh, wasn't that? I have to move away my picture. Okay, SK3 space 9LG. I don't know what CP is. SK3 9LG. Okay. Right. Great. Thanks for that fast reply. Stockport, Greater Manchester, England. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you an address with just the first part of the postcode if you can find the second part of the postcode, okay? I'm going to give you... Okay, so I've typed it in the chat box. 200 Chislehurst Road, BR5. Okay, can you guys find the second half of the postcode? Okay, great. Right. So I'm just going to clarify. Someone typed in here 1 Cunliffe Street, Stockport, SK39LG. That's very, very specific, okay? I just only asked the street because sometimes it's not necessarily house number 1 or number 1 of Cunliffe Street. Sometimes it might even be more than just one street, okay? So one postcode, one full postcode is going to mean more than one address. It's very useful for doing house price comparables because now you're looking at several addresses in one area, right? So that's what it's useful for. So I'm not necessarily asking for a specific address, okay? But it's good if you're data scraping and then you've got an incomplete address and then you've got to find out because you want to be able to submit to your client, you know, a really good data scraping completed file and all the addresses there are complete and all the postcodes have been found, okay? So I think this exercise was nice and simple and easy. We can move on. I'm just going to close some windows here. Okay. Right. So now we'll go to types of properties in the UK. So why is this important? Because different types of properties will cost differently and will achieve different yields. We'll talk about yields tomorrow. And landlords might have a specific criteria of what they want you to find for them using property portals. So we've got residential and commercial properties. I'm not going to be discussing commercial properties in this training session because there are various number of commercial properties, and if the landlord is doing commercial property strategy, he will tell you specifically and exactly what you'll be looking for anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to concentrate on the residential properties. So we've got, oh, the text seems to have moved a bit. Anyway, okay, we've got terrace properties, semi-detached, detached, and flats. Now, flats is what we call apartments or condos in the UK. Okay, in fact, we hardly have condos in the UK except in metropolis centers and metropolis cities like some areas of London, Manchester, and Birmingham. In general, we have low-rise apartments, which we call flats. Okay, so that's easy to understand. Now, a terrace property is similar, but not exactly the same. Similar to what we call in the Philippines as townhouses. Okay, that means that their walls share the walls of the next house. So they are generally a row of terraced houses, okay? So as you can see here, there is no space between this house that's got a black door and this house right next to it, which has got a white door. So in this picture, we can see this house, the next house, and partially a third house in the picture. So terrace houses are cheaper. They are smaller in size. Um, they not always, but in general, um, they are more. They're found more in neighborhoods that are, shall we say, more affordable. Okay, you've got semi-detached properties. Now, semi-detached versus a detached, for example, means that unlike a terrace property where there's no space between either of the walls unless you're an end terrace, a semi-detached property means you share one wall with another house. Okay, like a detached property, you don't share any walls in your property with another house next door. Okay, so that's why it's called a semi-detached, because one bit is detached, unlike a terrace wherein both sides are attached, but it's still got one wall that's shared as compared to a detached property wherein both sides are completely not attached to any other property on its side. You've also got, you might hear terms like council, ex-council properties. Now, this means that these houses were built not by private developers, but by um, government funding house building projects. Okay, these are generally older properties, but they are, I would say, they're one of the strongest and best built properties. They've stood, the test of time. They're still stronger than the new build properties that we've seen of the last 5 or 10 years. They might be low-rise flats like this one. They might be houses like these semi-detached houses, or they might be high-rise council flats. In general, I think, I don't know about other landlords and property investors, they will not be buying high-rise council flats. Okay. Other terms you might hear bungalows, new builds. I'm not going to be discussing them with you, but just so you know that, these are some of the terms that might seem alien and foreign to you. If you've never heard them before, it's fine. No one's going to assume that you understand everything. Okay. Mixed use, you've got residential, commercial, that this might be referring to properties that have, for example, a pizza takeaway on the ground floor, and then you've got apartments above it. Okay. By the way, in the UK, we say ground floor when you say first floor in the Philippines, and we say first floor when you say second floor. So it's a bit confusing. Um, Not that you'll need to understand this. I don't think it matters whether you understand it or not. But just in case, you might hear like ground floor and first floor and all that. Okay. HMOs, will be discussing this on the second day. Build to rent, development, and student accommodation. Other stuff as well, just a bit of British things to know. We don't spell some words as you do in American English. You say color, O-U, instead of color. Okay, labor, that's also O-U. I think what else? Theater, for example. Oh yeah, it's there, theater. It's R-E, not E-R. We say the dates with the day first and the month and the year. This is actually quite crucial because if someone said, for example, what day is it today? Is it the 9th of November? So you will say in the Philippines 11:09:20, right? But if you did that, someone here in the UK will read that and say, oh, that's the 11th of September. right? So you'll get your dates really confusingly wrong if you don't understand that in the UK, we actually say the dates first, the days, I mean, and then the month, and then the year. Okay. And there's other things like we say orientate, specialism, we say schedule versus schedule. So if you've got, you're working for your boss, and then the boss says, can you prepare a schedule for me? And you start giggling because you think, oh, he said that wrong. No, it's just a different way of pronouncing things. Oh, and on that note, it's good to listen to regional accents because in the UK, what you think is just bog standard English is not actually the case. There are regions where their accents might be very difficult for you to understand if you've not heard them often. Okay, so it might be good to go on YouTube and just type in regional accents in the UK, um, because it might help facilitate the communication between you and the client. Okay, but in general, things will be done by email, maybe, or using online collaborative platforms or remote working platforms. So you might not need to be speaking with them too often. But in the moments that you do, then it um, don't be scared to ask, for the client to repeat what they said, or like you say, you didn't quite catch that, could you please repeat? Okay. Finally, please be mindful and sensitive of PC stands for political correctness. So this refers to, for example, in the Philippines, and I always tell this to like people I encounter here in the UK, we are not politically correct in the Philippines. We laugh at people who are dark. We laugh at people who have disabilities or who talk differently and sound different. We laugh at people who have, say, a Chinese accent, or we laugh at people from India and we call them names and all that. Please, guys, um, I don't know how to fix that. It is something that we must just be mindful of and understand that these are very hurtful things if you do behave like that towards your clients or your client's customers. Okay. Your client might be a white British person. Okay. And you think, wow, your client is so impressive and all that. He speaks with such a posh British accent. But what if the client's tenants are people from um, Sudan, for example, or people from Pakistan? Okay, uh, now this doesn't mean that we treat these people horribly. Okay, so in the Philippines, we're not used to dealing with people from other races, other religions, and other cultures, and we're Catholic, and so we feel strongly about LGBTQ communities, for example. This is not the case. In the UK, it's pretty much very open minded, very much tolerant of people from other races and other religions. And I expect you to have the same mindset when you're working for a a foreign client, okay, or your client who's got foreign um, customers and clients. Okay, so I hope I just got that clear. Okay, so I am just gonna check the time. I think let's see if we can do a quick break. It's 11 o'clock. So we have a 5 minute break, guys. I'm gonna ask you to, if you want to, take a coffee break or something like that, and I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Okay. If you've got any questions, type in the chat box. I will answer it at the end of today's webinar during the Q&A. Okay, thanks, guys.